All right, welcome to the Tech for the Nerds. I'm Kenneth Rayner, and I'm going to be talking to you about technology and ways to integrate that into your education program or into any other program. So what you're seeing right now is a Prezi. You can go to this the link that's on the screen to view the Prezi. It's ever adapting. As you see, there's a lot of blank space, meaning we have a lot of work to cover. And for this first podcast, we're going to focus on Google products, and more specifically, Google Forms. So the reason, some reasons that we like to use Google Forms is that, or ways we like to use Google Forms is through evaluations, surveys, databases, reports, or citizen science projects. Reasons we like to do this, the benefits from this is, one, it's free, which is great. And then sharing is caring. You're capable of sharing your form online, which means to pretty much anyone you want. You can even embed these on your websites, therefore opening up the sharing process. For more advanced users, you're able to link it to Google Maps if you get lat longs, which I'll show you in a later podcast. And then you're also able to manipulate the code, the coding behind the form to input photos or things like that. And that's for more advanced users, and I'll show you guys later on how to do that as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So here's our Google Drive. We're going to create a form. We're going to title our form NERRD's form. And I like to choose the a very simple layout. So header blue, okay. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to make an attendance form, because that's one of the strongest tools, reasons I like to use the Google Forms is collecting attendance data, because I have multiple people doing multiple things, and it just is really easy for me to help me out. So we'll start from the top. Here are your form settings. We want to make sure that this is unchecked because we're sharing this across to many people. So that was saying that it was only sharing it with the people that are in the GTM Research Reserve, and that means those that have a GTM, if you look up here, a gtmnerd.org account. Well, I have volunteers that don't have that kind of account, and so I want to be able to them to be able to see this form as well. That they help out input data as well. So going to the next page, so this is page 1 of 1 so far. You can do a form description here. Be careful on getting too wordy, because the more people have to scroll, the more it's off-putting. Then we start with our first question. So our first question is event contact name. And you can put help text, so GTM Research Reserve Representative. And you want the name so that you can always go back to that person and say, oh, do you remember this event? And then whatever question you have. We don't want this to be a multiple choice, so we're going to change the question type to text. And then we're going to make this a required question, because we do want to know who is filling this out. And push done. The next thing is we're going to add another question. And because we want to know the date that this event was occurred on. So event date. And I love this. This is actually a new feature, relatively new, but you can actually have a date to where they can fill out the date. And we want it to include the year. Time for me is not necessary, but year is. So, and we want to make this required. And then we'll push done. But I want to show you up here. Here, this is for editing, which you're in edit mode right now. This is if you want to duplicate your question, and this is if you want to throw your question away. All right, so we'll push done. The next thing is I want to add a multiple choice question. And the reason I do this is because I use this attendance report in many different aspects. So I have education programs that go on, like for example, our K through 16 programs. I have public outreach programs that go on, and then we have the visitors to the exhibit hall. And I need to capture all of that data. However, I don't want to create this really long form that only a small amount of this long form pertains to the person filling it out. So what I'm doing is I'm going to create a question asking what type of program, so that then the person, all they have to do is click on the type of program, and then what's great is this little button here where you go to page based on answer. So type of event, and first one we'll call education program, and I'm only going to create 2 for now, and then visitor center. All right, and you can keep adding on as much as you want, and this is a required question, and we're not going to fill in this right here, but we'll come back to it, and the reason we'll come back to it is because we don't have the pages created yet. So push done, and now we want to add an item, and we want to add a new page. So the first page is education program. Push done, and now we want to add we want to know what type of students. So multiple choice, type of students, and so were those pre-K? Were those kindergarten or K through 5? And what I like to do is I model this after the numbers I actually have to collect for our NOAA report or for my state report. So model it as best as you can so that it helps you out in the long run. All right, college, and then you can click there. You can do it this way. We can push. This is required. We'll push done, and then we'll add another multiple choice question. Is were these students or teachers? And there's multiple ways of doing this. This is only one way. Another way that I prefer to do it is when I do types of students, I actually say pre-K students, pre-K teachers, K through 5 students, K through 5 teachers. That way it's all in one question, but to each his own. And then our last question that we definitely want to know is we want to know how many people, and actually there's one more question, so how many students, and that's a text question, required, done. And then lastly we want to know, and I make this a multiple choice and I'll show you why, but contact hours. The reason I make it multiple choice is because I was getting some crazy answers from my volunteers that had nothing to do with a number. So what I do is I make this multiple choice and I try to round it up as best as possible, and I only do a number, so 1.5, and I actually bring it all the way up to, I believe, 10, but I'm going to keep it for 2 just for the sake of the podcast, and this is required. Alright, and so that's good. Then I want to add another page, and this is going to be for our visitor center. Done. And then add all I need to know with the visitor center is the amount of people, because I already have the date from the previous question. I just want to know the amount of people. So walk-ins for the day, and make that a text, and this is required. Then I like to create one last page, and this gives a chance for volunteers and people to comment on an event. So for example, tell me, was it a good outreach event? Should we go next year? If so, do we need to bring something different? Something along those lines. So additional comments. And actually, I apologize. I want to make this a new page. So nice, we get to show the delete button. And page. There we go. So additional comments. Done. And then we want to add the paragraph text one so that they can write, because a lot of volunteers do like to expand upon what they've said. So any additional comments. And I don't make this required, so I don't check that. And then done. Now, if you remember though, we need to link our pages appropriately. So when they click on the type of event up here on page 1, we want it to go to the education program. So you just select that. The next is when they click this, we want it to go to the visitor center. All right, now we're pushed done. However, we're not done yet, because if you go to page 2 and you look at the very bottom, it says continue to next page. Well, the next page is the visitor center. The person that's doing the education program doesn't necessarily need to go to the visitor center page. So what we want to do is make sure that this jumps to the additional comments page. All right, so they don't have to go through this. Now, you can state it here to go to the additional comments page, but it's inherent because that it would go to this page because it says continue to next page, and this happens to be the next page. If you want to make sure, just click it and you're good to go. Now what we'll do is we will look at what our life form looks like. So go to view life form. All right, we'll fill it out. Rainer, today is November 1st. There we go. And this is an education program. Continue. I had an elementary group out earlier today. These were students. There were 30 of them. And I had them for 2 hours. And then continue. And I like to jot down notes in here personally so that I can remember what happened. But so I like to just, for me, I like to say the school name. And then push submit. And it shows that our response has been recorded. And what's even neater is if we go back to the editing of the form, scroll all the way down to the bottom, bottom, you can actually change what it says there. So you can give people information, you can say what you want, and then you can have them show a link to submit another response, or publish, or allow responders. I usually don't ever check these two. This one I check depending on what type of form it is. So if it's a form to students, like an evaluation, I don't have this linked because I don't want them to submit another response. I only want one student per form. However, with this kind of thing, if I have multiple events and I'm entering them all in at the same time, then yes, I want to be able to submit another response back to back. So anyways, so how do we see our responses? Well, you can see them here. I am not a big fan of this one where you go to summary responses. I like to see them in a spreadsheet. So you go choose response destination. You can either select new spreadsheet, or you can put it into an existing spreadsheet, which I think is way cool. But we're going to create a new spreadsheet. And so we'll do create. And it's setting it up. There we go. And we can view the responses here. So if we scroll all the way up to the top, you see there's my response that I just did. And then one last thing I wanted to show is the sharing capabilities. So if you remember, I said sharing is caring. So if we send the form, here's the link to the form, which you can hyperlink any word you want with using that link. You can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. You can email the link to people, and you can embed the form, which I think is really neat as well. And you can just determine what the size is on the website. So with that being said, that is our first podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please stay tuned for more, because there is a lot more coming up.